Years have passed. People have inquired, even investigated, but the full story has never been shared. The time has come to unravel the secrets never told from Roy's Grocery. The story you are about to hear is entirely true, except for the parts that I changed to make it a better story. One would not want to ruin a good story for the sake of the truth. And this story can only begin with a brief review of our heroes. Most believe there were only two, but in fact, among the greatest of all secrets, there was a third, whose role and impact on the family that day cannot be overstated, and to whom I will return later. We seemed innocent enough, these two boys, raised on a farm parsonage under the tutelage of a master pastor and a covered soprano soloist. We fished from morning to night, told stories about our catches, and generally wandered the countryside. We went to Whiskey Hill Elementary School in the winter and ate root beer popsicles at Roy's Grocery in the summer. Roy's was about a half a mile from our home. It was a great corner full of lots of action, gas, and groceries. Here was where the evangelist side of Pastor Dad decided to locate the sign pointing to Zion Mennonite Church, strategically placed in the same direction as the town of Needy, Oregon, though located only a few feet from the Whiskey Hill corner sign, which in the end led to his well-known title as the Liquor Pastor. Now, it should be said that Phil was, in fact, rather innocent in most of this story. I could say the same for myself, but as facts unfold, the listener may have questions. As you see, I can portray a face of innocence, but on closer examination, you may note a certain devious tendency that seems to trace, well, to my father. Take a look at this family photo. Up on Mount Hood, eating cotton candy. Now, who could trust a pastor wearing that hat? Let me return to our two heroes, who one fine Saturday were asked to ride along into Woodburn to get our Valiant tuned up at John Hirschberger's garage and car sales. Now, a word must be said about our Valiant, whose name could not more appropriately be chosen. Ours was a white station wagon. It had the latest in technology, a push-button transmission to accompany the push-button AM radio. Mom and Dad were proud of this car. Occasionally they would sneak off for weekend getaways on the Pacific coast, leaving us all behind with Grandpa Sam and Grandma Mary to watch the late-night Lone Ranger and Bonanza, usually shivering scared under a couch. The only downside to the Valiant were the times when the push-button transmission would get a button stuck, and then John Hirschberger would take a look under the hood and usually say, "Well, Pastor John, you got a button stuck. Are you sure you don't want to trade this in for a new Plymouth Fury?" And that was about what happened that Saturday in the spring of 1962. But this time, Mr. Hirschberger added some punch to the offer. "Why don't you just take this newly arrived Fury for the next few days while I have a go on your aging Valiant?" Now, Pastor Dad, a man of the Bible, was also a man of cars and cycles, even from a young age. And this new Plymouth Fury, bright red, fins out the back, and the smell of a new car all over inside was irresistible. How could anyone turn down such an offer? So off we went, back home to Hubbard, windows down, radio on, and a smiling Mennonite pastor behind the wheel. As we came into Whiskey Hill Corner, Dad said, "I need to ask Roy something." And here, my friends, the first secrets begin to emerge, ones that have never been revealed and may never fully be known, but we can speculate. A new red car, thoughts of the day off on Monday, if he could just get through the sermon on Sunday. And would Roy agree to watch the kids if the missus and me took a day or two off? Something had him going, because the man pulled up beside Roy's gas pump, put the Plymouth Fury in park, and went running into the store, with the car's engine still running. I looked over at Phil. Phil looked back. Now, if a car is running, is there any good reason one should not try driving it? The Fury had a sleek dashboard, but it was a long way from the steering wheel down to the pedals. "Hey," I say to Phil, "let me pull this lever and try steering. You go down there to those pedals and push on them." He climbed onto the floor below the wheel. "Which one do I push?" "Just try one, and then the other, and then go back." It all seemed logical at the time. Having just completed the first grade, I pretty much had my alphabet down. Staring at the dash, I could see P, R, N, D, 2, 1. P must be park, I thought, and R must be run. "Are you ready down there?" "Yeah." "Okay." I stood up on both feet, head above the wheel, grabbed the gear shift with my hands, and pulled it into R. "Push something down there," which I did not need to shout because Phil had hit the gas, and we shot straight backwards. I found myself thrown forward halfway through the Fury steering wheel when he hit the brake, and then I shot back into the seat, losing all grip of the steering wheel. We flew past the gas pump, along Roy's parking lot, bounced left, then right, then loud scraping sounds as we left Fury red on Roy's black mailbox, and the car sunk into the ditch to a dead stop, wheels still churning. I stood up, and Phil climbed up to see what had happened when Dad came running across the lot and reached our window. His face was so full of worry. "You okay? Anybody hurt?" We shook our heads. And then worry went south to places pastors aren't supposed to go. "What were you boys thinking?" he huffed and then puffed. "I cannot even leave you for a minute." Silence. "Well?" Dad asked again. "Well, we did not leave the car running," I said. I learned in this moment a few things that would serve me well in international negotiations for years to come. Starting with this: the truth cannot be heard under the wrong conditions. But there is a secret to this story nobody knows. Do you remember that cute, innocent-looking little girl? Yeah, this one. Well, she was in the back seat. And that may not seem like much to be in the back seat, but this little girl had powers unseen to the human eye. It was part way home from Woodburn to Hubbard. Maybe because Phil and I were buckled into the front passenger seat and our dear sister Beth was relegated to the back. Who knows what was going on inside that brilliant mind? But what we do know is that about a mile from Roy's grocery, she shouted, "Story time!" and then launched into an endless story that numbed our minds and even included an impression of Elvis Presley. And there you have it, the untold secret. What could Phil and I have possibly done to overcome the power of Beth's story time? She was, after all, the storyteller who coined the most famous of all titles on the cover of Family Worship magazine. And I read for you these exact words, though maybe she was affected by Phil's prayer, because as recorded, when we lifted our heads from prayer, Beth said, "We are the happiest world in the whole family." We got the Valiant back the next week. I still like push buttons better than stick shifts. John Hirschberger did not try to sell Dad a new Plymouth for quite a while. But it was a long weekend and a longer week. We had to sit extra still in church through a longer than normal sermon. And we had to recite a Bible verse on Sunday evening. And we could not watch Disneyland after church or Flintstones on Thursday night. But the real secret is this: never to be forgotten from that day at Roy's grocery. It takes a family to ride out whatever red fury life throws at you. And don't forget it.